The text came in while the dishwasher was screaming, that sharp metallic whine it makes when one spoon is out of place and the whole machine decides to punish you for it. I was standing barefoot on cold tile kitchen light, flickering sleeves pushed up, hands still damp from rinsing a plate I didn't even plan to use. My phone buzzed once on the counter. Then again. I wiped my hands on my sleeve and picked it up. Evan. Hey, just letting you know Thanksgiving's going to be pretty full this year. Might be best if you sit this one out. No emoji, no apology, no we'll make it up to you. Just that. I stared at the screen, waiting. Not because I didn't understand it, but because some small, stupid part of me still expected a second message. A correction. A backpedal. Something human. Nothing came. I typed one word. Okay. Hit send. That was the first time something in me cracked. Not loud, not dramatic. More like a hairline fracture you don't notice until the glass finally shatters weeks later. If you've ever had family treat you like you're optional, if you've ever been the extra chair no one bothers to pull out, go ahead and hit like, subscribe. Because this story isn't rare, it's just usually quiet. 43 minutes later, my phone lit up again. Facebook notification, then another, then a third. I opened the app. My mother had posted a photo. A cabin living room, warm wood walls, golden light. Everyone gathered tight on two couches like a catalog cover. My dad holding a carving knife mid-laugh, Evan leaning back with a drink in his hand, his girlfriend curled into his side. Even the dog made the frame stretched out in front of the fireplace like he belonged there. The caption read, "Full house, full hearts. So thankful." I zoomed in without meaning to. There it was, an armchair by the window, pillow fluffed, throw blanket folded just right. Empty. That chair screamed, comments poured in fast. Love this family so much. So cozy. Where's Rachel? My mother replied herself. She's busy, always doing her own thing. That was the second time something in me snapped, because that wasn't true. I wasn't busy. I wasn't distant. I wasn't doing my own thing. I wasn't wanted. I didn't comment, didn't call, didn't text back. I just stood there, phone in my hand, listening to the dishwasher click, and finally die like it had given up too. I remembered being 16, the first year they said there wasn't room, a beach rental in South Carolina. Only sleep 6. Mom said, eyes fixed on the counter. There were 7 people in the photo she posted. 17, ski trip, hotels full. 18, Vegas for Evan's birthday, adults only. 19, Hawaii, next year sweetheart. Next year never came. It just became tradition. By 22, I stopped asking. Asking hurt worse than silence. Silence at least let me pretend I chose it. My phone buzzed again. Evan, don't overreact. I laughed once. Short, sharp. Gaslighting always shows up dressed as concern. I didn't respond. Another buzz. Mom. Why are you making this uncomfortable? That was the third snap. I stared at the message, then at the empty chair on my screen. I typed. Deleted. Typed again. Deleted again. In the end, I sent nothing. Explaining yourself to people who benefit from misunderstanding you is just slow self-destruction. The phone rang. I answered this time. Rachel, my mother said immediately. No, hello. You're being dramatic. My grip tightened around the phone. I said, okay, I replied. My voice surprised me. Flat, calm, cold. Well, your silence says otherwise. Of course it did. I heard Evan laugh in the background, glass clinking, someone cheering, a football game maybe. Life moving on without me. You always do this, she continued. You pull away, then act hurt. That was the 4th snap. No, I said. You leave. I just stopped chasing. There was a pause. Not regret. Calculation. Family doesn't revolve around one person, she said. There it was. The verdict. I hung up. I poured a glass of water and leaned against the counter. The overhead light hummed. My reflection in the microwave door looked thin, tired, hollowed out. I wasn't crying. That scared me more than if I had been. Numbness is what comes after you've cried all the tears your body thinks you deserve. I sat at the kitchen table. The chair across from me was empty too, but this one wasn't waiting. It wasn't temporary. It wasn't pretending. My phone buzzed again. A text. Mom, your chair is still open? That was the fifth snap. I stared at that sentence for a long time, because chairs don't matter when no one wants you sitting in them. I set the phone face down. Outside, a neighbor laughed. Somewhere down the block, a door slammed. Life kept going. Inside my kitchen, the light flickered once more, then steadied. And that's when my mother sent the line that finally killed whatever was left. You've always been better on your own anyway. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. That sentence told me everything I'd been refusing to believe for years. The silence didn't come all at once. It settled in layers. First, I muted the family group chat. Then I archived my mother's number. Evan's stayed unblocked, not out of hope, but habit. Muscle memory is stubborn like that. The house felt louder without them. The refrigerator hummed, the clock clicked, every sound had edges. That's when the pattern started replaying, not as memories, as evidence. I was 15 the first time my name got crossed out. We were sitting at the kitchen table, same table, different year. My mom had brochures spread out like playing cards, sunsets, palm trees, smiling families with perfect teeth. Beach week, she said. Just us. I smiled. All of us. She didn't look up. Well, there's a space issue. I watched her pen hover, then slash a line through my name on the notepad. One clean stroke. That was the day I learned how easy it was to erase someone without raising your voice. 16, the excuse was money. 17, the excuse was timing. 18, the excuse was Evan's schedule. It was always something reasonable, always something that made me sound unreasonable for even noticing. That's how it worked. They never said you don't belong. They said it's complicated. And I learned early that complicated meant permanent. At 19, they went to Park City. Ski lodge, big fireplace, matching sweaters in the photo. I was in my dorm room eating ramen with a plastic fork when my mom texted a picture. Mom, wish you could have come. I stared at it until the steam from my noodles fogged my glasses. Wish is a funny word. It sounds like regret without responsibility. By 20, I stopped asking. That was the year Evan turned golden. He got a car, then a trip, then grace. Every mistake was growing pains. Every success was hard work. I learned my role by then. The backup daughter, the one you mention when someone asks how many kids you have, the one you forget to invite but remember to explain away. I existed best as an idea, not a presence. The worst one wasn't a holiday. It was my college graduation. I sent the invitation 3 months early, date circled, location highlighted. My mom replied with a thumbs-up emoji. 2 weeks before the ceremony, she called. Honey, we might not make it. I was sitting on my bed folding a dress I'd bought just for that day. Navy blue, conservative, safe. Why, I asked. Well, Evan has regionals. I didn't speak. You understand? She continued. This is big for him. The silence stretched. I'll send pictures, she added, like that fixed anything. They didn't come. Not my dad, not my mom, not even Evan. I walked across the stage to polite applause and empty seats. The chair where my parents should have been stared back at me like a missing tooth. That was the third time something in me snapped. That one hurt. After that, I learned efficiency. I learned how to show up alone, how to celebrate myself quietly, how to keep achievements small enough not to invite questions. I stopped telling them things. Promotions, breakups, new apartments. Every time I shared it, either got minimized or weaponized. You're always moving. You're hard to keep up with. You never tell us anything. I wanted to scream, you trained me this way. Instead, I nodded. The phrase that followed me for 15 years was always the same. There just wasn't room. No room in the car, no room in the house, no room at the table. Funny how there was always room for Evan's friends, for girlfriends, for last-minute plus ones. But not me. I wasn't loud enough to fight for space, and they knew it. The night after the Thanksgiving post, I lay awake replaying everything like a ledger. Every exclusion neatly labeled as coincidence. Every coincidence forming a pattern they pretended not to see. I opened my notes app and started listing them. Not out of anger, out of clarity. Age, event, excuse. It filled faster than I expected. By the time I hit 15 entries, my hand was shaking. Not because I was sad, because I was finally certain. My phone buzzed at 1:17 a.m. A text from Evan. Evan, you always make yourself the victim. I stared at it in the dark. That sentence had weight, years of it. I typed back once. You can't victimize someone you've already removed. Then I turned my phone off. That felt new. The next morning I woke up lighter, not healed, not happy, just done pretending. I made coffee, watched the steam curl up like it had somewhere better to be. For the first time, I didn't check my phone to see if anyone had reached out. I already knew they wouldn't not with the right words anyway. Because in their story, I wasn't missing. I was inconvenient. Later that day, my mother left a voicemail. I didn't listen to it right away. I let it sit there like an unopened letter you already know the ending of. When I finally pressed play, her voice came through tight and careful. Rachel, I don't know why you're pulling away. We've always tried to include you. You've just always chosen your own path. That was the sentence. The rewrite. That was when I understood the final rule of being the spare child. If you survive without them, they'll say it was your choice all along. I deleted the voicemail, and for the first time in 15 years, I stopped waiting for them to notice I was gone. I didn't announce anything. No post, no message, no carefully worded boundary text meant to sound mature and reasonable. I just made a plan and kept it quiet. That was the difference. The house I booked sat on the edge of the Oregon coast, far enough from the highway that you couldn't hear cars, only whined in the slow, patient breath of the ocean. Gray shingles, white trim chipped at the corners, a porch that creaked when you stepped too hard. It wasn't impressive. It was honest. I invited 3 people: Marianne, Tom, Lucy. That was it. I didn't frame it as a replacement holiday. I didn't say Thanksgiving. I said, I'm cooking dinner this weekend. Want to come? Marianne replied first. Of course. No questions, no hesitation. Tom followed with a thumbs up, and I'll bring bread. Lucy sent a voice note screaming, yes, please, like I'd offered her Disneyland. Nobody asked who else was coming. That detail mattered more than I expected. We arrived just after sunset. The sky was heavy and low clouds pressed together like they were holding something in. Lucy jumped out of the car before I could even kill the engine boots crunching gravel hair already coming loose from the ponytail Marianne had tied that morning. It smells like salt, she yelled. Marianne laughed, the real kind, the kind that starts in the chest. Tom carried bags inside without comment. No fuss, no asking where to put things. He moved like he belonged there already. That's what it felt like. Belonging without audition. Inside the house smelled faintly of old wood and lemon cleaner. The kitchen light was warm but uneven, like it had been replaced too many times by someone who didn't care about symmetry. Lucy immediately claimed the couch. This one's mine, she said, kicking off her shoes and pulling a blanket around herself like a declaration. Works for me, I said. No one corrected her. No one joked about space. That mattered too. We cooked together. Not efficiently, not perfectly. Marianne chopped onions too thick. Tom burned the first batch of rolls and shrugged, tossing them straight into the trash. Lucy insisted on stirring everything, even things that didn't need stirring. There was flour on the counter. A spill no one rushed to clean. Music playing low from someone's phone, an old playlist Marianne liked that I'd never heard at my parents' house because it wasn't festive enough. I kept waiting for tension, for someone to comment on timing or money or portions. It never came. Instead, Marianne leaned against the counter and asked, "You sleeping okay?" Just that. Not, "Are you upset?" Not, "Did something happen?" Just a check-in, quiet, human. I nodded. She believed me without pushing. That almost broke me. We ate at a small table that wobbled if you leaned too hard. Tom shoved a folded napkin under one leg and fixed it without making a thing of it. Lucy folded her hands dramatically and announced, "This is the best dinner I've ever had." Tom raised an eyebrow. "Even better than pizza night." She thought about it. "Tie," I laughed, out loud. It surprised all of us. There were no photos. No one reached for their phone. No one asked to capture the moment. It existed because we were there, not because it needed proof. That was when I realized how much of my life I'd spent being documented instead of witnessed. Later, Lucy fell asleep on the couch, mouth open, blanket kicked to the floor. The house settled around us. Wind tapped the windows. The ocean moved steady and unconcerned. I rinsed plates at the sink. Marianne dried, passing them back without looking like we'd done this 100 times. Tom stepped outside to check the weather and came back in smelling like cold air. "You good?" he asked me casual. "Yeah," I said. This time it was true. My phone buzzed on the counter. I didn't pick it up right away. When I did, it was a story notification, posted by a cousin I barely spoke to, someone who usually liked my posts but never commented. The video loaded. My parents' cabin, same room, same couch, same fire, same empty chair. The camera lingered on it longer than before. Someone had added text. "Thanksgiving feels weird this year." There was a pause at the end, long enough to mean something. I watched it once, then again. The view count ticked upward in real time. I locked my phone and slid it face down on the counter. Marianne noticed. "You okay?" she asked softly. I nodded. Again. She didn't push. That mattered more than she knew. Outside, the wind picked up. Lucy stirred, murmured something about whales, then went still again. Tom poured tea into 4 mugs out of habit, then paused, noticing one extra. He didn't say anything, just set it aside. I caught that. That mattered too. Later, lying in the guest room, listening to the house creak and breathe, I thought about the other Thanksgiving. The loud one. The curated one. The one with captions and comments and chairs that existed for appearances. Then I thought about this one. The burned rolls, the wobbly table, the kid asleep on the couch because she felt safe enough to let go. I didn't feel like I was missing anything. For the first time, I felt like I'd stepped out of a room that had been too loud all along. My phone buzzed again. A text from my mother. "People are asking questions." I stared at the ceiling. That sentence said everything. Not "where are you?" Not "are you okay?" Just damage control. I typed nothing. Set the phone on airplane mode. And in the quiet with the ocean breathing somewhere beyond the walls, I finally understood the truth I'd been circling for years. The family I was born into loved the version of me that stayed quiet and convenient. The family I chose loved me without conditions. Down the hall, Lucy laughed in her sleep. In the kitchen, the light hummed softly. And for the first time in my life, Thanksgiving didn't feel like something I survived. It felt like something I was allowed to have. The shift was immediate. It always is when people realize they've lost control of the story. My phone came off airplane mode the next morning, and it didn't even finish syncing before it started vibrating like something alive and angry. Missed calls. Unread texts. Voicemails stacking like warnings. Evan first, then my mother, then my father who never called unless something was already on fire. I set the phone back down and made coffee. Slow, deliberate, let it ring. Because panic sounds different when you don't rush to meet it. By 9:14 a.m., the tone changed. Not anger anymore. Fear. "Mom, why are people asking where you are? No greeting, no concern, just optics." I watched steam rise from my mug, watched it disappear before it reached anything solid. I didn't answer. Another text came in less than a minute later. "Did you say something to anyone?" I almost laughed. Because silence scares liars more than confrontation ever could. Evan tried next. He skipped texting and went straight to calling, 3 times in a row. I let the 4th one go to voicemail. I listened to it later alone, standing in the hallway with the door closed. His voice came through clipped and tight like he was late for something important. "Rachel, this is getting out of hand. People are making assumptions. If you've got an issue, you should have just said something instead of disappearing." There it was. The rewrite. I wasn't excluded. I disappeared. That was the first sign they were losing it. By noon, my mother escalated. She posted again. A photo from the cabin cropped tighter this time. No empty chair visible. Just smiles. Glasses raised. The caption read, "Family is about understanding and grace." The comments were different now. "Where's Rachel Hope? Everything's okay. Did I miss something?" My mother didn't reply to any of them. That was new too. The email arrived at 1:37 p.m. from an address I didn't recognize, but the tone was unmistakable. Professional, polite, poisoned. It opened with concern. It always does. We've received some troubling messages from a family member regarding your emotional stability during high-pressure projects. I read it once, then again. They'd CC'd a client, not enough to accuse, just enough to plant doubt. That was the moment the panic crossed a line. I didn't respond. I forwarded it to my lawyer. Then I forwarded it to myself. Then I closed my laptop and went for a walk. Because I knew what came next. My phone rang while I was halfway down the block. My father this time. I answered. "Rachel," he said, already irritated, "why are you doing this?" I stopped walking, doing what I asked. "This," he snapped, "making us look like villains." There it was, the truth finally said out loud. "I didn't post anything," I replied, "but you let people talk." I smiled. He couldn't see it. "That's not something I control," I said. Silence, then sharper. "You could fix this." Fix? Like I was a mess they'd misplaced. How I asked. "By explaining yourself," he said, "publicly." That was when I knew they were scared, because they didn't want peace. They wanted permission. My mother took over the call without warning. "Rachel, listen to me," she said, voice suddenly soft. "Strategic. This doesn't have to be ugly." I waited. "You've always been sensitive," she continued. "People misunderstand you. If you'd just come back and talk, we could clear this up. Clear it up, erase it, put me back where I belonged in the margin." "I'm not coming back," I said. Her breath hitched. "Just barely." "What does that mean?" she asked. "It means I'm not explaining my absence to people who created it." That was the moment the mask slipped. "You're being selfish," she snapped. "You always do this when attention isn't on you." There it was, the final gaslight. I hung up. The messages came faster after that, from relatives I hadn't heard from in years. "Your mom's really upset. Families fight, but this feels extreme. You only get one family." I didn't reply to any of them, because none of them had noticed when I disappeared. They only noticed when it became inconvenient. That night, Marianne found me sitting on the porch phone and my hand screen dark. "They're spiraling," she said, not asking. I nodded. She handed me a mug. "You don't have to manage that." "I know," I said, and I did. For the first time, I wasn't tempted to explain, or soften, or fix. I was tired of being the glue in a family that kept cracking me open to hold itself together. The next morning, my mother sent one last message. It wasn't long. It wasn't loud. It was worse. "I don't recognize you anymore." I stared at it for a long time, because what she really meant was, "You don't behave the way I trained you to." I typed one sentence, then deleted it. I didn't send anything. I didn't need to. They were panicking because the narrative no longer belonged to them. Because for the first time, the empty chair wasn't invisible. It was evidence. And no matter how fast they tried to rearrange the room, people had already seen what was missing. The silence stretched, and this time it wasn't mine to break. The fallout didn't arrive all at once. It never does. It came in quiet updates, small shifts, the kind you only notice if you stop trying to control them. The first thing that changed was the silence. Not mine, theirs. No more calls. No more long messages pretending to be concerned. No more relatives just checking in. The noise collapsed in on itself. When people lose control of the story, they eventually stop telling it. 2 weeks after Thanksgiving, my client called. Not frantic, not awkward, direct. "We received an email," she said. "It raised some questions. We did our own review." I waited. And I asked. She paused just long enough to matter. "We're extending your contract," she said, "and increasing the scope." I closed my eyes. She continued. "We don't make decisions based on family drama." I almost laughed. When we hung up, I sat at my desk for a long time without moving. The office light hummed. Outside traffic crawled past like it always had. Nothing dramatic happened. The world just didn't end. That felt like a victory. The second thing that changed was Evan, or rather how often his name stopped appearing. A mutual acquaintance mentioned him once casually over drinks. "He's been distracted lately," she said. "Missed a couple deadlines." People noticed. I didn't ask questions. I didn't need to. The same people who benefited from the narrative are always the first to crack when it turns on them. Later I heard his bonus had been cut. Not eliminated, just reduced. Enough to sting. Enough to remind him that attention has consequences. My mother tried one last time. Not with anger, with nostalgia. She mailed me a card, No return address. Just my name in her handwriting, careful, controlled. Inside was a photo, an old one, me at 8 years old, sitting at the kitchen table, smiling like I hadn't learned yet. The note read, "We used to be so close. I miss that." I stared at it for a long time, because what she missed wasn't me. She missed the version of me that stayed quiet. I didn't respond. I framed the photo anyway, not as an invitation, as a reminder. The promotion came in early spring. Creative director, corner office, glass walls, a view that made people stop mid-sentence the first time they saw it. HR slid the offer across the table. 30% raise, expanded team, full autonomy, any questions they asked. I shook my head. I signed without hesitation. That part surprised them. It didn't surprise me. I'd been preparing for that seat my whole life. Marianne hosted a small dinner to celebrate. Nothing fancy, just string lights in the backyard and food served straight from the counter. Lucy made a sign. It read, "Aunt Rachel is the boss." The letters were crooked, the spelling imperfect. It was the best banner I'd ever seen. Tom pulled out an extra chair before anyone asked, set it next to him at the table. "This one's yours," he said casually, like it had always been. That was the moment it landed. Not loudly, but completely. My phone buzzed once during dinner. Unknown number. I didn't answer. A voicemail came through later. I listened to it the next morning, standing in my kitchen with sunlight spilling across the floor. It was Evan. His voice sounded smaller than I remembered. "I heard about the promotion," he said. "Congrats. I was wondering if you had time to talk. I could use some advice." I deleted it, not out of spite, out of clarity. Advice is earned, so is access. My mother posted again a few weeks later. Something vague, something polished. Some relationships are meant to teach us when to let go. The comments were thin. People move on when the story stops changing. I didn't feel the need to correct her. Closure doesn't require consensus. On a quiet Sunday afternoon, I rearranged my living room, moved the couch, shifted the table, let more light in. There was one chair I hesitated over, the old one, the one I'd always kept just in case. I carried it to the curb. Someone picked it up within the hour. That felt right. Later that night, Lucy called. "Can I come over next weekend?" she asked. "We need to celebrate you again." I smiled. "Of course," I said. There was no scheduling conflict, no space issue, no hesitation. I hung up and looked around my apartment. Every chair was filled with meaning now, every seat chosen on purpose, and for the first time I understood what my mother never did. Family isn't the room you're born into. It's the one where someone pulls out a chair, looks you in the eye, and says, "Sit. You belong here."